Hi, it's Dennis Daly. Have you ever been to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico? Well, the city was named for a popular game show of both radio and television, Truth or Consequences. And there's a lot there to cram into a little bitty city. And one of the neatest things is the Geronimo Springs Museum. Our host during our visit to Truth or Consequences was Ann Welburn.
Ann, let me start by asking here, how new is this building? How was this collection all put together?
It was started about 25 years ago. This first part was all that was here, and year by year they have added, bought more buildings, and made them part of the museum. And now we have a big museum that used to be like 4 or 5 buildings.
What's a good place to start? We're standing in front of the Ralph Edwards room. We can't forget that the impact that he has had, not only in television in general, but on the naming of the town. There are so many things geographically here. You have the beautiful dam that's not that far away that at one time was one of the biggest projects of its kind. Here on the wall looks to be kind of a who's who hall of fame of some very familiar faces.
Yes, these are the stars that have been here through the years. From 1950 down to 1996. Don't have 97 yet.
Don't have the 97s, and boy, look at all of these very, very, very familiar people. Some of them stars like Ruth Davis that you've seen in TV shows. A good example of someone you know their name. Here's Judge Wapner, of course, who did the People's Court.
And Rusty Burrell.
And Rusty Burrell, yes.
We also have Jane Mansfield.
That's right. One of Ralph Edwards' assistants was telling me that she was here. How long have you been here in Truth or Consequences?
All my life.
All your life, so I won't ask you the number of years. What is it like to participate in something that is now nearly 50 years old? I mean, it's a focus, it's a rallying point. I'm sure for the social clubs it's an important function.
Oh, it's great. Everybody looks forward to the fiesta. It's our one big time of the year.
And what kind of reaction do you get from people who visit this part of the Midwest? This part of the West is so distant for many people. I grew up in Indiana, lived in Washington, D.C. I finally drove across the U.S. I visited a lot of little towns like Pecos, Texas. Each town really has a unique story to tell.
Right. Ours is a little more uniquer. Everybody wants to know, why did you name it this? Why is it Truth or Consequences? So we have a little pamphlet that we hand out to each one of them that explains how it got its name and how long it's been this way and so forth.
You still see hot springs around various places on signs. That was the original name of the city.
Yeah, and our high school is still called Hot Springs High School. Mm-hmm. They just never got around to changing it. So
the one thing I've always felt sorry, if I may say this, for people in Truth or Consequences, whenever you have to fill out an application or something, they often don't put enough space to even put a town like Los Angeles in, let alone to put Truth or Consequences.
Oh, we solved that. We just put T or C.
T or C. I've heard it called that. Here's some beautiful fiesta dresses we're standing in front of. This is, oh my goodness, this is where radio falls short. Here is a dress whose pattern is fashioned after newspaper headlines.
Right. Arletta Coleman was the newspaper lady when we changed the name of the town, and she took an old newspaper and had it made into cloth and then made the fiesta dress.
Ah, wow. Of course, you have the regular things you would have in any festival. You have a queen and her court, a big parade.
Correct, yes.
I missed the parade. I apologize. I slept through it.
It was a good one today.
They tell me it was a great parade. How did this area get started? This is pretty arid ground. What would have brought settlers to this part of the world?
The hot mineral baths that we have. Also, after the dam was finished, the town that they had out near the dam, which is about 5 miles east of here, just kind of moved into here, where the hot baths were. And for years and years and years, we were known as the City of Health because of the hot baths and the mineral water and so forth.
You have a lot of little towns like that grew up that way. In southern Indiana, there are 2 towns, French Lick and West Baden Springs, where the great Larry Bird came from. Of course, Hot Springs, Arkansas. The whole Hot Springs concept, traditionally over the years, was a great drawing card for people.
Yes, it was. Right. That coupled with the baths, it helped our little town grow.
I'm fascinated. I'm looking at some more of the the names up here. Here are two very familiar faces from quiz shows, Jack Smith and Jack Bailey. And boy, I'm old enough to remember, would you like to be queen for a day? That was a great show.
This is my favorite, Tab Hunter.
Oh, yes, Tab Hunter.
That was when I was in high school and he was here. I was a junior in high school, and I just thought he was the best-looking thing that had come down the road.
I can pull out about that. Okay, let's add a 2 here. And this is the Ralph Edwards room here, and you've got an old Truth or Consequences TV show playing here.
Right, we have, and it runs continuously. We have them from way back to some of the later ones. This one is one of the first ones that you're watching now.
It's really recognizable. You can see it was done here with the butte in the background. I think it was, wasn't it? Am I in the wrong? Well, let me start.
You're in the wrong spot.
I am in the wrong spot. Okay.
This one was down south of town. That's not the Butte, that's Caballo Mountains. That are...
Okay. Well, see, you should never let a tourist all of a sudden come in and think he knows everything. And let's come back here if we can. I got a little sneak peek of this room before I started talking to you. This is a splendid room, talking about the early days of the area, the Spanish influence here, and of course we cannot forget the tremendous impact that the Native Americans had before the white man ever got here.
Right. These are murals done by a local artist, Delmas Howe, and it depicts our heritage. First the Spaniards with Oñate, then Geronimo up at the Box Canyon, then our poet and cowboy Eugene Manlove Rhodes, and then Pancho Villa.
This is almost like Six Flags over Texas.
Right,
You're just missing one or two flags.
Yes. This is called our heritage room, and we try to keep things in here that show our 4 heritages.
What kind of reaction do you get from young children? I mean, kids today, I think, are so less steeped in history maybe as my generation was, where our parents taught us a little more, maybe the schools did. When they see that people lived, without houses, without any kind of indoor plumbing, having to go great distances across the desert, not having cell phones or refrigeration or right guard, what do they talk about? What kind of questions do they ask?
They just say, "Oh, gee," usually, and I ask them, how would you like to do this? And they would say, "I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't have wanted to have lived in."
It really reminds us how much fortitude a lot of the pioneers had. Well, you've got a great collection of horseshoes here, and this is beautiful. These are pottery from the Geronimo times.
Yes, they're ollas that they carried water in.
Which is kind of a sphere, a globe almost, with a rather small opening. I guess at the top that cuts down on evaporation. Obviously, they knew more than we did.
If it turns over, it doesn't spill as much, I guess.
These are beautiful murals. Your local artist certainly did a phenomenal job. And here is a tribute to
Eugene Manlove Rhodes.
Eugene Manlove Rhodes. Tell us about him.
Rhodes was a cowboy poet, and he lived in a little ranch community east of Truth or Consequences, about 17 miles. He was quite a character. He liked to gamble and fight, and he married a girl from New York, brought her out here, put her in a house over at Pilarosa, and went off and left her there, and went back to his cowboying. And then she went back to New York. He went back to New York. Was there for 25 years. They say mysteriously went back to New York, and when he came back 25 years later, he moved here over by Alamogordo, then moved to California and died. He's buried over on the Missile Range. Now, one of his movies over here, one of his books, called Pasapora Key, was made into the movie Four Faces West with Joel McCrea. It's the only Western where a shot was never fired.
I love Joel McCrea. I always thought he was a fine actor. I occasionally hear the old radio show Tales of the Texas Rangers, which he did. They call New Mexico the land of enchantment, and I must tell you, I had not been here really till last year, spent a night in Santa Fe, and I had thought all of those pastel pink sunsets and everything were an artist's conception, but you have the most beautiful sky here.
Oh, I know. It's blue, and so far it's not smoggy, and our sunsets are just gorgeous.
And one final thing, how important is it to a town this size to have a museum like this that is a draw? And what would you say to someone in another small town? I mean, every town has some kind of heritage, about the importance of finding the old things and preserving them before they're gone forever.
Oh, that's very, very important. That's one reason I'm here at the museum. Our children have to know what went on before them so that they can proceed onward with their futures. They just have to know what's in the past. This is our fossil room. We have tons of fossils in Sierra County, so and beautiful rocks. So this is our fossil and rock room. We have a mastodon skull that was found out by the lake. We have a mammoth skull that was found by the lake. All kinds of bones, all kinds of rocks.
You know, you get a much better concept as to just how big those prehistoric animals were until you see this skull. The mastodon skull is larger than a coffee table.
Oh, yes.
And probably part of it's worn away.
Yes. It takes 6 men and a boy to move that. It's extremely heavy.
Wow.
And very well preserved.
Where to from here now? Oh, look at those beautiful gems. Oh, just shelves full of them.
Yes. Fool's gold, amethyst, all kinds of crystal. Mm. And this is our Apache room. Mm-hmm. The Apache were the Native Americans that lived in this area. Geronimo would come by and bathe in our hot water. We had Victoria, who is the leader of the Warm Spring Apaches that were in this area. We have all kind of information about them. We have a mountain spirit dancer from the Mescalero Apaches over in the eastern part of the state.
Let's put this into perspective. In what era did Geronimo live? What time-wise?
The late 1800s and the early 1900s. He died in 1908 and was born like in 1850.
So we're talking about a part of what is now the United States that was still very much Indian country well into this century.
Oh, yes, yes. Uh-huh.
It's kind of hard if you're from the East Coast, where everything was settled so long ago, to realize that some states in the Union didn't join till after 1900.
Yes, and this is our Hispanic room. It kind of goes in order here because the Hispanics were the ones that came next. Some of the first families in Sierra County are in here. We have a little diorama of the El Camino Real, which was a road that went from Chihuahua, Mexico to Santa Fe, and part of it went through Sierra County over to the east of us.
Now, here you have a display of Catholic artifacts. Of course, you cannot tear away the impact of the Padres from when the Spanish came through.
The Hispanic families that came here were mainly Catholics, and the Catholic religion was very, very important in their life, so you can't separate the two.
Can't separate the two. Now, over here we have pots and pans and tools and implements and crockery. And
this is our farm and ranch room, and we have a chuck box, we have barbed wire, we have all kinds of farm tools and ranch tools that were used.
Now, this chuck box would have been on the back of a chuck wagon.
Correct.
So we connote the word chuck with chow.
Yes. As I tell the kids, they didn't have a McDonald's that they could run to, so they had to carry their food with them.
And hope it stayed preserved.
Right. This is more of our ranch room. We have a quilt that has the brands and the names of many of our, and it's made out of tobacco sacks.
And good heavens.
And some of our old dresses on our models here.
You know, it amazed me, Chris, as society is progressing, we're getting more and more casual, how hot some of these dresses must have been in your Southwest summers out here with all these layers of fabric.
Right, and the shoes they had to wear. I don't know how they crammed their feet in them. This is the room that we're most proud of. This is our pottery room.
Oh, Anne. Oh, look at all of these. Now, most of these were, dug up, found in an archaeological manner?
No, not in an archaeological manner. They were dug up years and years ago before our archaeologists came along.
And preserved through the years.
And most of it is from one collection, Mrs. Chestnut's collection. We have several other people that have donated, but most of it's from hers. And that's all she did. All her life was go around and look for pottery and other artifacts.
You know, you cannot really go very far in talking about museums without thanking some very special people. I know it's that way in every town. There's usually one person who's concerned about the history, maybe two or three, and sometimes they maintain fantastic collections that until they die or a museum starts up, that you're not really aware that they have.
Right, and that's what happened here. And we had some people that were just extremely interested in preserving our history, and Mrs. Chestnut was one of them. And she loaned us this, and then when she passed away, it became ours.
Now down here you have a sign that says entrance to the log cabin.
Yes. Our log cabin, it wasn't just one that we built. It was one we brought in from the forest. The Forest Service helped spring it in, and we brought it in log by log and put it up just exactly as it was in the wilderness.
So this isn't kind of I thought there was someone sitting back here.
Oh, there is. That's our miner.
It's a mannequin. I thought there was some old codger. So this isn't something that Disney would put together from scratch. This is an honest-to-goodness cabin taken apart and put back together.
Right. And every little log, every little piece of it is right where it was when it was up in the mountains. What's in it? There wasn't anything in it when it was up there. It was a miner's cabin. So we have put stuff in it that would fit the cabin and the time period. Now,
I wonder when the wind blew, whether these seams between the logs whistled. I know they're shimmed up with pieces of wood, but
they still whistle and the dirt still comes through.
Here you have an old bunk bed. Here, this is really a metal bunk bed over in the corner. We'll adjust the codger's hat. Over in the corner, there's what is this? To sharpen knives and axes on?
Yes, it was an axe sharpener, whatever you needed sharpening.
A wheel,
yeah,
and you would run. Now here's something that wasn't in the original cabin, and that's an emergency exit sign.
That and the smoke detectors up there.
Oh.
The kids let me know that.
They always notice those.
And I always ask them what this is, and I put this in here on purpose.
Well, now let me see if our audience knows. It almost looks like a ceramic cooking pot. I was told when I was growing up in the Midwest, it was what was called a thunder mug.
That's it.
Have you heard
Yes.
it?
Yes.
It's a kind of indoor stopgap temporary bathroom.
Right. It's too cold to get up and run out to the privy in the middle of the winter, so they put these at the foot of their bed. Sometimes call them a slop jar.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase.
But most of the kids nowadays do not know what it is.
You can't find 10 kids, most who've ever had to use it, except maybe a porta potty at a state fair or something. Well, goodbye, old codger. He doesn't talk, does he?
No, he doesn't. He listens very well.
Well, that's well, Ann, this is absolutely beautiful back here. And the thing again is that what we're seeing here, this lifestyle, which we would look at as being very difficult, is something that is still in the memory, I'm sure, of many of the elders here in the area can remember this.
Oh, yes. I can remember.
You're not that old.
I'm not that old, but I can still remember not having electricity and all that kind of, and no telephones, no TV.
Let's take one more side trip if we can on the way out. Here is a room, and it says Hot Springs Bottling Works here. Here again, the importance of the mineral baths to this area.
Yes, this is our hot springs room before it became Truth and Consequences. And we have the history of the town, we have the history of the county, and these leaves over here. Anything you want to know about the county, you can probably find it.
Is your high school picture in here?
Yes.
It is. We probably don't have time to find it, but I noticed there's a lot of high school pictures.
Yes, we have from 1933 to 1983.
Now, which urban area had the biggest impact on here? Was it El Paso or Albuquerque? You're a little closer to El Paso, I guess.
It's the same distance. I don't think either one of them one's more than the other.
Because I noticed here you have the El Paso Times newspaper headline.
Yes, but we also get the Albuquerque Journal.
Local newspaper here?
No. Yeah.
Do you have a paper here now?
Oh, yes, we have 3 of them.
3 of them?
Yeah, there was an article in the paper not long ago that for a town our size, we have more newspapers per capita than anybody else in the United States.
Well, my hometown had more churches per capita, but it also had more taverns.
Well, we used to have a lot of taverns. We don't anymore. We have more churches than we do taverns.
And let's go out here and pass by. Let's not stop here. Here's a primitive dentist chair. I don't want to know anything about that. Here's a beautiful room. It's a memorial to your veterans.
Yes, and it goes from way back to the old fort days up through Desert Storm. And we have all kind of Army paraphernalia that they used in World War I and World War II and earlier. And then we honor some of the people that served for us. And we have a list over there on the wall of everybody that served from Sierra County in the various wars.
What is the main industry, or what are the main industries here now? Of course, you've got tourism, you've got the beautiful lake, the Elephant Butte that draws a lot of people for recreation.
Service industries, people serving, like grocery stores and so forth is the main thing. The hot mineral baths are starting to become important again. They kind of died out for a while, but they're starting to come back as being an important part of our economy.
I guess what I'm alluding to is that, and I mean this in a very complimentary sense, this is by no means a dead town. I mean, the highway still goes through it. You've got a lot of traffic through here. You have a vibrant downtown, great museum. It's not one of those towns that time has passed by.
No, and in the last 6 years we have grown tremendously.
Yes, it's a fascinating little town named for a long-gone radio and TV show, Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I'm Dennis Daly.